It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. I think one of the biggest news stories yesterday was the Teamsters poll, and the Teamsters not endorsing anyone when it really looks bad. I mean, you think about what a disconnect, and we've said it for the longest time. It's good that there's actually a poll that is out there. We have said for the longest time we have no idea why union members support the Democratic Party. Right. Based on their own survival.
Yeah.
And, you know, we looked at the auto workers, for example, and said the auto workers whose management, and they have endorsed, the auto workers endorsed Harris, right? Yeah.
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 Right. Yeah.
They endorsed her, and they've completely betrayed, their membership. Completely. Mm-hmm. Just totally betrayed their membership.
Yep.
With the whole thing with EVs, buying into it. To the point where the Teamsters were asking for taxpayers to subsidize their salaries.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not the Teamsters, the auto workers.
Right, yeah.
It's like, what? So it's just nuts. So it came Teamsters' time to endorse. And they came out with the polls first and said, well, we'll endorse after we release the polls. So we have full transparency.
Right.
Now, understand, Trump has made it clear that he's going to continue. You know, not much he could do about it, but he agrees with right-to-work states.
Mm-hmm.
So do 79% of union members, according to the latest polling, as we brought you earlier, which says you shouldn't be forced to join a union.
Right.
So even union members, and I think this comes from union members saying, look, we join a union because our lives are supposed to be better.
We have an incentive to do that. We look at the pay. We look at
the benefits and everything else.
All the benefits, yeah.
You shouldn't have to force people in there.
Right.
If you're a union during your job, people should be attracted to the union.
Yeah.
Well, they did the Teamsters electronic member poll. This took place from July 24th through September 15th, initiated following President Biden's withdrawal from the race. This is their members. Trump, 59.6%. Harris, 34%.
Yeah.
That's the one poll. Then a second poll, this conducted the 9th through the 15th. Teamsters Research phone poll. Trump, 58%. Harris, 31%. Poll completed after the RNC and DNC conventions. Here's the thing, because you and I look at all the polls, and we were looking at the Quinnipiac poll in Pennsylvania that it shows, her up by 5?
Yeah.
And all I thought was they were the worst-rated pollster. What are they off? 9 points, was it, I think?
Yeah, they were the
8 or 9
least
points?
accurate.
Yeah, least accurate poll in 2020, off 9 points.
Yeah.
But this is something that if you just break it down, think about that. You cannot get more left than the union leadership in this country. And unions have been traditionally the most supportive of liberal and Democrat ideas. You're not talking about Trump winning 50.5 to 49.5. If you understand, I mean, just by a point.
Right.
These are absolute landslide numbers.
Yep.
And so you look at it, and her, I mean, she's around 30%.
Right.
So the Democrats are only getting support from the Teamsters. of roughly 30%.
It's what we have talked about. The Democrats being the working class party, that era is gone. Good. It's over.
Well, here is what I'd like to see broken down, because you see this here. You see Trump has more than last time for Hispanics and blacks and young people. Well, then how is Harris where she stands right now in the polls?
Exactly.
Who are the people that not just staying with her?
If these polls are weighted accurately,
right,
in their methodology,
right,
then how is she at that point?
What demographic is increasing if she's lost young people, especially men? You know, you're talking 34 years age and under. Tremendous switch there over the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure.
You've seen it in Hispanics, blacks, and now you've got this, you know, with union members. These numbers they're unbelievable. How can she be leading in any legitimate poll? And by the way, that's not an accusatory statement. That is a question. Where is it that she is making up and increasing in what demographic?
Right.
Is it women? Are more women being drawn to her? You know, it's interesting because, my women friends are conservative. They could care less. They could care less that she's a woman.
Right.
They don't care at all. In fact, some of them get angry that she is promoted as representing women in the United States. That's what I get from conservative women. But I just wonder where it is. Is it in women? And has there been a massive change of women that were independent voting Republican? Especially when you look at the economy and how sensitive normally the demographics of women are sensitive to inflation and cost increases?
You know, I was looking at the breakdown or looking at some of the polls in Nevada, and the culinary union there's very strong in Nevada. They endorsed back in August. They endorsed Kamala Harris. But you look at the polls in Nevada, and it's pretty close. It's very close, in fact. Right now, the RCP average in Nevada is a 0.5 in favor of Harris. 0.5. But it's really, everything is well within the margin of error. In fact, it's a +1 in the most recent polls, and they go back to August 23rd. There's 4 that are listed here in Nevada from RCP. And so she's leading by 1 in 3 of those 4, Trump leading by 1. But all of them,
which one is
he? Insider advantage. Okay. He's leading. Trafalgar, she's leading by 1. But again, they're the CNN poll from August. She's leading by 1 with a margin of error of 4.9. And the Trafalgar has a margin of error of 2.9, which is the latest poll. That's September 11th through the 13th. So it's very close. And also, again, that Quinnipiac poll in Pennsylvania has her +5. Yeah, sorry. Nope. It's not +5. I don't know if she's leading, but she's not leading by 5 in Pennsylvania. And when we look at the sentiment of the basically the working class, the blue collar sentiment, I think the Teamsters really is the one of the latest examples of people saying the Democrats used to be our party, but they're not listening anymore. And I think that's why you're seeing these numbers. The culinary union, I was trying to see if there was some kind of internal polling done by its members. It may exist, but I couldn't find it. And, that's, for them to endorse. In fact, any union endorsing a Democrat, the West Coast, you saw that the West Coast Teamsters Union is endorsing Harris. Okay, but who are you talking? You're talking about primarily, you're talking about, in fact, Oregon, Washington,
are you talking
California.
About the pollsters or the leaders of the?
What?
Is it when you say the Teamsters of West Coast, who are you talking about? The
it's
leadership?
Their chapter is endorsing officially, yeah.
So it's the leaders. What's the polling of those members?
I don't know that they released a polling, in fact.
Well, okay.
Yeah. But you're talking about all blue states, all three. So, not a shock. Do they feel safe there in saying, oh, okay, we can do that? I don't know. I don't know what the breakdown would be, though. But the worker in the rural area, those Teamster drivers that, don't live in Portland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Seattle on the West Coast, may have a different take on it.
Well, if you look at it, because Atlas Intel that came out earlier this week that showed Trump winning and winning all of the, I thought it was all of the battleground states. They were the most accurate pollster by a pretty significant margin in 2020.
Yeah.
Wick was number 2. I haven't seen any polls from Wick at all. Trafalgar, number 3. Insider Advantage, that you just mentioned, number 4.
Yeah, right.
Rasmussen, number 5. Harris Insights and Analytics, number 6. Or, excuse me, number 4 in there. So that was based on the differences between the margins of victories in polls and final vote count, including pollsters releasing at least 5 national and battleground states in the last 10 days prior to the election day. So that's still to be determined because that's how they view the accuracy of the polls. Not now. I mean, you can go back and look at what the final result is, but what you do right before the election. So that's still to be determined.
Right.
Quinnipiac that you mentioned before was the worst pollster in 2020. Excuse me, in 2020, they were off 8.45 points.
Wow.
So if they're off in Pennsylvania by that amount, that means she's either up by 13 or 14 or down by 4 or 5.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. She may be up in Pennsylvania. She's not up by 5. By the way, here's a question. So the West Coast Teamsters, basically it's the Teamsters Joint Council's 7 and 42, made up of 39 local unions representing 300,000 members in California, Nevada, Hawaii, Guam. They have, again, they've endorsed Harris. Are they that 34%?
Maybe.
In the national poll of
be.
the Teamsters? They're the ones, basically?
Could be.
I'd love to find that. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
But it would make sense.
Or maybe their leadership just ignored what they had to say. I don't know. Leadership's been ignoring it for the longest time. Look, the White House couldn't even handle it yesterday. Yeah. Karine Jean-Pierre was mumbling and stumbling, going, well, there's a 2024 election. I mean, she was telling us that it was the 2024 election. It was like, we know that. And it was like, and we're not going to get involved in this. There's many thoughts, blah, blah, blah. It was horrible. She was almost as bad as Kamala.
Yeah, right.
She couldn't come up with an answer. It was really bad.
Right. By the way, I don't know of a state that has worked harder against the profitability of the trucking industry when it comes to the Teamsters than California.
In California. I know. That's really, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. Man, I want to see the breakdown there of the members in those states, of the West Coast states.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Discussion regarding farm safety and injury prevention efforts in part focuses on children on the farm. Melissa Pluckelman of the National Farm Medicine Center is among farm safety advocates and professionals involved in such efforts through organizations such as
the National Children's Center, one of 12 agricultural centers across the nation that create resources. We do research, we figure out what's causing injuries, what's causing fatalities, and we give resources back to the farmers.
Another example is a collaborative effort by farm safety organizations in place since 1999, the Childhood Agricultural Safety Network.
That organization is something that anyone who is interested in protecting youth on farms can get involved in. We talk about what are the injuries that are happening, what are the trends that we're seeing, and then what are we doing to prevent those injuries and fatalities. And we share information with each other.
The network's web address, www.cultivatesafety.org/CASN. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You're not going to want to miss this. Another poll out there. Who trusts the government? Or do people think that government is lying to them some of the time, all of the time, most of the time, never? Coming up. Really interesting. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis formally assigned the case involving the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump to the Office of Statewide Prosecutor under the supervision of the Florida Attorney General, emphasizing that it is within the state's jurisdiction to pursue an attempted murder charge. It is, by the way, you've seen nobody argue with him.
No.
Nobody's argued legally with him because he's on strong legal ground.
Right.
DeSantis said the suspect, who was arrested by Martin County officers after fleeing the scene on Sunday, is believed to have committed state law violations across multiple judicial circuits in the state. Also, the state of Florida has jurisdiction over the most serious, straightforward offense, which is attempted murder. DeSantis said during the press conference, adding that he has directed state agencies to move fast and provide full transparency to the public. DeSantis said he does not believe that it is in the best interest of the state of Florida or the nation as a whole to have the same federal agencies that are seeking to prosecute Donald Trump leading the investigation. Well, you saw Senator Blumenthal. You cannot get more liberal Democrat than that.
Right.
Absolutely livid at the Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
For not cooperating with them and telling them what's going on with the investigation of the attempted assassinations of the former president. Blumenthal's going crazy at the Biden administration for this.
Well, because it's a very basic principle. How can this not be a top priority?
You know, if I'm trying to think, if it was a moderate Democrat senator, like if it was Manchin, for example, you'd say, okay, it's just Manchin. It's Blumenthal.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw that, I said, this must be the Babylon Bee.
Right.
When I read the headline.
Right.
And it's like, nope. But no, the state has a jurisdiction over an attempted murder charge and a bunch of different charges.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I didn't see this poll when it came out in late July, but it was just, Rasmussen posted it overnight.
Okay.
And it came out in late July, but it's distrust of government. Nearly half of voters think government officials are lying most or all of the time, and no branch of government is highly trusted. The new National Telephone Survey, an online survey from Rasmussen and the National Pulse, finds that 15% of likely U.S. voters believe that when the government officials speak, they're lying all the time.
And the other half believe that they're lying even when they're not speaking.
15% when government officials speak, they're lying all the time, while another 33% said officials are lying most of the time. Another 40% think government officials are lying some of the time. Only 6% say officials rarely lie, and 1% believe that government officials never lie. I'm speechless here because...
Well, they must have gotten some government officials then as respondents.
Okay, that's what it is. All
yeah.
right. It's got to be it.
Yeah.
Because who are these people?
Yeah. It was taken inside the Beltway.
It's like... I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Even 1%. I mean, this shows you that legalizing drugs is wrong.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, this also boggles my mind a little bit, especially with this current administration. Asked which of the three branches of the federal government they trust the most, 23, and it's not a great deal, 23% say the executive branch. 18% trust the judiciary the most. What do you mean trust the judiciary? What do you mean trust? Well, I don't even know how the judiciary. That's not a true.
You can analyze it, but trusting really doesn't.
You can analyze whether
you're talking about. I guess the question would be: do they trust them to analyze it properly? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, neither do I. And 12% trust Congress the most. However, 39%.
I want to talk to that 12%. I want to talk to that 12%. I trust Congress the most. Seriously.
However,
this is why you're not invited to any of the cocktail parties.
However, 39% say they trust none of the branches of the federal government.
All right.
There are people more cynical than me.
Yeah.
The more strongly voters suspect government officials of lying, the more likely they say they are that the judiciary is the branch of the government they trust the most. Whereas the least suspicious of lying government officials are most likely to trust the executive branch.
Okay.
More Republicans than Democrats, 56 to 45, or voters not affiliated with either major party, 44%, believe government officials are lying at least most of the time.
I guess we have to back up, and I have a question here about qualifying the respondents.
I know.
Were they qualified by having them name the three branches of government? Because still a significant number of Americans can't do that.
Democrats, 38%, more likely than Republicans, 11%, or unaffiliated voters, 18%, say they trust the executive branch the most. That would make sense.
Yeah, sure.
Democrats are in power.
Right.
Republicans are more likely to trust either the judiciary branch or Congress, while unaffiliated voters say they are most likely to say they trust none of the branches of the federal government. Men are more likely than women voters to think government officials are usually lying.
Interesting.
And twice as many men, 24%, as women say the judiciary is the branch of the federal government they trust the most. Now, are they talking about the Supreme Court? Are they talking about judges in general? What are they talking about?
Or do they look at it as, well, trust isn't part of it, so if you're going to apply it here, it would have, then I would trust the... Again, what does trust mean in that case? Because are you trusting them to interpret the law properly?
This is interesting. Voters under 40 are more distrustful of government officials. 58. Where'd it go here? 58% of under 40 voters say government officials are lying at least most of the time, compared to 47% of those ages 40 to 64 and 38% of voters 65 and older. You would think wisdom and just experience and observation of decades would make it so voters 65 and over would be the most distrustful of government, wouldn't you say?
I would think so. I was going to say the older I get, the less I trust.
Yeah.
And that includes all of you. Get out of my yard.
Breaking down the electorate by income categories, a majority of voters earning less than $50,000 a year think government officials are lying either most or all of the time, while those with annual incomes over $200,000 place the most trust in the executive branch. Wow. Wow.
Wonder why, how.
Well, you know what this does? This fits in with what we were talking about yesterday. So we need to use the uneducated college voter instead of the educated college voter.
Right. The clueless.
Right, the clueless. Because obviously the most clueless people in the nation, when you look at the polling, based on actual facts.
Right.
Of if you're looking at right now, because people are judging right now the executive branch. The executive branch, right? Forget about Trump. He's not in office. They're judging who's in office right now.
Yep.
Biden is an absolute pathological liar that lies about everything.
Yep.
There's no way that you can be a person, a critical thinking person who connects the dot and be a fully cognitive person and actually believe that this administration is telling you the truth most of the time. You've got to be delusional. You have to be.
Oh, yeah.
Or you just hate Trump. And so your hatred of Trump means you just close your eyes to reality.
Yeah. Wow.
A majority of voters like Donald Trump's choice of J.D. Vance as his vice presidential running mate.
Wow. All right, good.
Nearly half of American voters would support laws to protect U.S. business from a European Union policy that imposes strict environmental, climate, and social justice rules on companies.
Also good.
Now, they didn't ask, okay, that was way back then, because that's why Waltz is another, because J.D. Vance at that point was picked.
Right.
So there you go. Just amazing. And this is where you look at it, and I mean, you see the approval rating. I mean, nothing's over 23% of trust.
Right, yeah.
And you just wonder when right now the Democrats are pounding censorship. You saw that, now the whole point is, depending on how expansive the law is that Gavin Newsom signed, are they trying to stop parodies in California? You saw that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
parody as well, because you're using the voice, using AI of the person, and that's not really them, and people could mistake it. Where I'm telling you this, have you mistaken one parody?
No.
Neither have I.
No.
But when you think about it, you've got the Democrats out there every day saying that they need to censor and punish people for misinformation.
Well,
and so the majority of people, the vast majority of people listening to that have to be saying, what the hell are you talking about? Are you talking about punishing yourself? Because the majority of misinformation comes from you. We don't trust you.
Right. Yeah.
And you're saying you want to punish us? So where do the Democrats believe that they get the advantage? Because this is calculated now when you see it. Walt's coming out and stating, as we've said, that there is no freedom of speech for misinformation or hate speech. Most Americans know there is. They know what freedom of speech is.
Yeah.
They know you can't defame somebody's character.
Right.
But they know you can sit there and say something that's false, and that's protected. And so you've got Walt saying that needs to be, again, there needs to be laws against that. Hillary saying there needs to be civil and criminal charges. Just yesterday, that came out for misinformation. And she's one of the biggest pathological liars in American history. Look, you can say Republicans are liars. They're not calling for massive censorship and criminal liability. Well, Trump did. No, Trump said, they're attacking me and telling such lies. The defamation laws, I believe, should be stricter.
And these have been a part of the new talking points of what they're trying to push now for a reason. You and I have touched on it. The great fact checker. Social media does its own fact checking. You don't need ABC at the debate or after the debate or during the debate to do fact checking for Republicans. We know they're not going to do it, but we believe people are capable of doing it. And so Hillary, Kamala, Tim Walz, they want to deem stuff misinformation so they can control that fact checking that goes on, that's defeating them every day. Very quickly, by the way. I mean, they're getting it. It's such a short boomerang trip now for Democrats to have it come back at them. They're appealing to the radical left. Help us make that against the law.
Yeah.
How dare you do your own fact checking?
But the public, by mega landslide numbers, because it had to be bigger than mega.
Yeah. Super MAGA.
By super MAGA
yeah.
numbers, believes the government lies to them most of the time.
Right.
And then that government that lies to you most of the time, that you recognize lies to you most of the time, is saying that we need more laws for censorship on you.
Right. You trust them to implement the laws and also define.
And then define the law, right.
The law and what qualifies as misinformation and what punishment there would be.
Which would be then, why are the Democrats saying it if they know the polls, or they don't care? They're just panicking
they don't care.
Because they're being fact-checked.
They're being fact-checked, and they're trying to build support with the radical left in this, which is why Hillary's on MSNBC saying it, because you'd never say that on a Fox News or anywhere else as Hillary Clinton.
But as you said, they're being citizen fact-checked.
Yep,
on
exactly.
social media.
Exactly.
That's the difference right now.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We didn't even get to the, we did a little bit to the 0.50 drop in interest rates.
Yeah, we touched on it a bit. We'll see what it does. The markets, after the announcement, dropped the futures this morning, looking right now to pretty much regain what that swing was total yesterday after the announcement. But we'll see where it goes and what it does for the economy. It was a big move. I think most people would say, that's kind of a reach. Before yesterday, they most expected the Fed to drop rates, but a half a point is a big message. And no doubt, a huge part of that is political.
Well, yeah. One point I heard was you can't drop rates that quickly and say the economy's doing great. You can't have it both ways.
No, exactly.
Unless you're doing it for political reasons.
Right, exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.